profitable on day one, literally went profit right at, even with all salaries included. And then for 8 straight months, we didn't have a single day where we lost users. We grew every day for 8 months, which was just mind-blowing.
Hey, this is Jesse here, and you're about to hear my discussion with KB from Pick the Odds, which is a cutting-edge sports betting data platform. In this one, KB shares the impressive story of self-funding Pick the Odds to profitability through income earned by using his own product, why he doesn't actively promote or market Pick the Odds, his relentless focus on delivering the lowest latency data, why he's resistant to the idea of external capital, toxicity in betting communities, and much, much more. I'm a big fan of the pragmatic way that KB is building his business, and I know that you'll find this episode especially insightful. The Betting Startups podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. 4 out of the top 5 US operators personalize player experiences with Optimove. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/bettingstartups. If you like what you see, you'll get your first month free. All right, we are back here on the Betting Startups podcast, and for this episode, I am joined by KB from Pick the Odds. KB, thanks for joining us today, man. I've been looking forward to this one for a little while now. I've been hearing your guys' name come up more and more in conversations I'm in. Just to check in, how you doing today?
Doing great. I mean, a lot of new things coming up. A lot of new sports are starting that we really don't have coverage on, so we're trying to get those in there. And so there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of new features, and every day is another hurdle.
Well, look, let's just start at the beginning here, KB. For the benefit of the audience who might not yet be familiar with yourself, can you give us a quick introduction, talk about your background, maybe some of the major chapters of your journey prior to founding Pick the Odds?
Yeah, so I'm self-taught. I'm a back-end engineer that has pretty much worked with large data sets my entire life at this point, at least my major part of my career. Basically, I started off with an eSports company, which I started about 7 years ago, which is our parent company called Strats. We basically converted in a eSports environment of Dota 2. The publisher is Valve in Seattle. And we basically download every game of Dota 2 that's played every day. It's an MMO, sort of like an MMORPG, 5-on-5 type of game. That game consists of picking out different characters and then different skill sets. And so we basically took that game and we download every click, every movement, every purchase, every thought process that the user might go through and convert it into text. We then take that text and push it into a neural network, and we learn how to play the game through public play. And those replay files are like 40 megabit in size, and computing them about 1 million per day. It's about 7 gigabits of downloading bandwidth, 24/7. And we throw those into computers and store them. And so that's a very, very large data set. Our Postgres database is something close to like 500 gigabytes per day. It grows exceedingly fast, and we have to do a lot of tuning. So with that background, bringing in odds became a lot easier. I guess that's really how my background came into play with Pick the Odds.
Interesting. How did you, I don't say pivot, but like how did you go from, I guess, focusing on esports data and generating all that large swath of esports data? And how did you, I guess, shift from there into collecting odds at scale? Obviously, there's a whole ETL process. Without getting too technical here, I'm not technical, so I'm not going to try and go toe-to-toe with you on technical language. But like, what was sort of the story of, I guess, shifting your focus from Strats to what now, I guess, is the origins of Pick the Odds?
Yeah, so I'm from Philadelphia, huge Eagles fan, great year for me. Every week, I have 3 season tickets at the stadium, and every week I bring 2 different people plus myself. But one of my friends was on his phone the entire day, and I said, like, what are you doing, man? Like, hang out, have a beer, whatever. He's like, I'm arbitraging, and I not in any type of that field. I'm like, what does that even mean? He's like, I'm just betting on both sides. I'm like, oh, okay, is this like profitable? He's like, yeah, I've made $45 just standing here, and I said, Really? So kind of transitioned my head to be like, okay, well, I'm in esports and I'm doing large data sets. And as the sports betting field starts to grow, we start seeing new sports books all the time. Like ESPN Bet is fairly new. I know it's been purchased off of somebody, but like you start seeing some major names be brought into the field. It made sense that there's probably different odds for different books and better lines in certain places. So we kind of took that idea and I went home and, that was week 5 of the 23-24 season. I think by like week 9, I had a couple users using it. And I think we had like 5 books at that time and just basic 2-way arbitrages. And yeah, kind of just like realized like it's really successful. So then I just decided to pivot all my resources from Strats over to Pick the Odds. And pretty quickly, we became pretty successful.
Hearing you talk about that and sort of share that anecdote and origin story, beyond your friend making money from arbitrage, when you decided to make that shift, was it born out of a business opportunity you saw, or rather for you as a software engineer by trade and with that as your background, did you just find this to be a very compelling like problem space to be building in and like an interesting technical problem to solve more so than maybe the upside potential from a commercial perspective?
Yeah, I just think like in general, like when you go to the casino and you put $5 and win 30, it's not so much you won $25. It's like you taken money from the casino. And it's kind of like a badge of honor. And so like almost everybody that we think about that does sports betting is very excited when they win, even if it's a small amount because you feel like you're taking money from competition. And so it's kind of like it just makes it a little more fun. Everyone you know of that, is into gambling of some sorts, even if it's for $20, it makes the game a little more fun when somebody gets a touchdown or trying to vote that somebody misses the final 2 point shot because you have the under or something, even though the game's a blowout. So, I mean, it just brings a little bit more fun to it. So esports is really great. It really is. I think it was doing really well pre-COVID. But I don't know if you watched ESPN, but on Friday nights, it'd be like Counter Strike on ESPN on Friday nights at prime time. It wasn't sports, and this was before COVID. But I think people really want to enjoy esports in person, seeing the people in person, not at their home in all different parts of the world. And I think it just got really hurt by COVID, and it really just has not recouped from that. So we had to make a decision based on our growth. We still keep strats up. It still downloads data every day. I still maintain it. But until esports can maybe make that turn, it looks like the way that sports betting is going, it's just absolutely blowing up in every way possible.
Well, let's talk a bit more about Pick the Odds specifically now. I mean, you guys haven't been in market that long. You really only started building this like less than 2 years ago. And it's really impressive to me, number one, the speed at which you've built, but not only built it, but like overcome some very real technical constraints to bring this to market. And number two, the actual traction you've gotten in market has been relatively quick. So I'm excited to dive into this, but just as a starting point, for people not familiar with Pick the Odds, just give us a super high level overview of what it is you built, what you've got in market, and just what the value prop is.
Yeah, so we have about 106 books right now covering about 30 leagues and about, I think, 7 sports. So we have a very broad range. All the major leagues are covered. We're working into other sports such as golf, MMA, F1, those types of sports as well, or leagues. But we strive to be extremely fast in our data. A lot of our competition will maybe update once every 30 seconds or something like that. And that is useful data. But we're looking for somebody who's going to be sitting at the computer and really trying to find discrepancies through 100 different books in less than 1.6 seconds. That's kind of our goal. From the line update to the time it hits your screen, our goal is 1.6 seconds. And we hit that on most books. Some books are just naturally slower, and that's kind of out of our realm. Even if you were to load the page, it takes 5 seconds to load. But in a nutshell, that's what we want to do. Once we have that data, then we just build tools on top of it. And that includes the historical data. So we have every line is stored every 1 second increment from the beginning of Pick the Odds. So we don't really show that on a screen yet, but it's coming soon. That's kind of what we're really doing. We're building tools. We're not giving you advice on what to bet on. We're not giving you formulas. We don't have AI tools or some black box of something that's going to tell you what to bet on. We provide you the tool. You can turn the knobs, and whatever comes out is what you specifically wanted. And if it's successful, you can keep that hidden.
Yeah, I often hear this space you're building in referred to as the picks and shovels part of the industry. And to your point, right, really equipping people with tools to help inform their own decision making rather than spoon feeding them the answers. You're competing in an increasingly crowded space. There's a lot of tools out there that offer similar functionality to what Pick the Odds does, and some are better than others on different dimensions. Curious from your perspective, KB, I guess as you look at the features currently supported with Pick the Odds, how do you think about the positioning of the product relative to some of those other providers out there? What are you guys best at? What are you known for? And sort of how do you see the competitive landscape that you're operating in?
Yeah, we're definitely behind in regards to time. This whole field, I guess you would say sports betting kind of really started in the United States around 2016, 2017, maybe really took traction around 21, and now it's been blowing up for the last 3 years. So us starting in late 2023, we're really far behind. But when it comes to like the tool set, we believe that there's not that many people in the field. A lot of people are buying API accesses from, maybe one of, let's say 10 API providers that do what we do, collect the odds. We're very limited on our B2B. We don't really just hand it out to anybody who's going to willing to give us money. So our competition is in, or our advantage is in the speed of the data and the accuracy. When we talk about 1.6 seconds, we're not just talking about the money lines or the six card. We're talking about if the game ends odd or even. We're talking about, will there be a three-pointer by LeBron James in the first 3 minutes of a game assisted by Luka? I mean, it doesn't matter what the bet is for us. We believe there's an edge in every bet, even if it's a grand slam. So no matter what the bet is, we want to collect everything and give the end user the decision whether or not it's a valuable bet or not. So I think that kind of answers that one.
As I said, you've been in market for barely over a year. I would suppose this past NFL season was your first full football season in market. What can you say about just the trajectory of the business? Maybe some of the traction you've gotten through the first year being live. As I say, I see you guys mentioned a lot when I scroll gambling Twitter, a lot of positive endorsements of the product. So sentiment seems to be very positive. It signals to me that things are going well. But what can you share about just how it's going, I guess, through this first year and sort of what you're seeing based on the trajectory?
Yeah, it's a weird story behind it, but I don't know if you've ever gone to an all-inclusive resort.
I was actually at one last week, funnily enough.
There you go. So, you get there, you pay the money ahead of time, and your goals when you're there is just to relax. You don't have to pay anything else that's out of pocket. Maybe there's an upcharge for a nice bottle of wine or something, but naturally, everything's paid for. You just want to relax and forget about money for a bit. There's a couple of resorts that I've gone to where they try to sit you down at a table and take an hour or 2 hours of your time and do the sales pitch and try to get you involved. I can't tell you how much I hate that. And so when I built Pick the Odds, I wanted to make a product based on the idea that if you're successful, there's there's no reason you won't tell your mother or your friend or whoever that's also in the field that, hey man, I'm making $200 a night and I'm only paying for the best plan at Pick the Odds, $120 a night. It's no brainer. So when I made the pricing structure, I thought to myself, how much money do I think an average bettor will make with my tool per night? And that's how much I want each plan to make. So we have a $30 plan, an $80 plan, and a $120 plan. My goal is to make you $120 a night, and the other 29 nights out of the month is for you. And that's totally reasonable. And, it kind of opens a door. So when I thought about like referrals and affiliates and paying influencers to give me, props, it kind of just put a bad taste in my mouth and reminded me of that all-inclusive experience. So we try very, very hard to not do that. I'm not saying we'll never do it, but we're trying very hard to not do it. And so we keep our prices low. We don't give specials. We don't give discounts. There's no promo codes. There's no sign up for a year and get a discount. We don't do anything like that. Everybody pays the same price, including myself. I have one developer account on my local computer that I have to use obviously for developing. But if I'm on my phone arbing, I should pay just as much as everyone else into the business. And so that's what we kind of do. We follow that plan. And that kind of changes the landscape in this field where constantly you're saying, this guy made me a lot of money, sign up. And there you see it, referral equals 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you're not sure if that person actually is making money or they're just trying to make money on you. And it puts this weird circle of trust into it. And so when you see that positive viewpoint on Reddit or wherever you're looking, that just tells me that I'm doing an okay job or a good job maybe. If people want to stay with us, they should stay with us because they're making money. And they should bring people to us solely because you're making money. If I start to fail, I don't expect you to stick around. And that's fair. And that's the way it should be. And that's kind of the PTO motto, I guess, is, just be straight with our customers and don't try to play games with them and be like, oh, if you sign up tonight, we'll give you $20 off. Like, no, it's just take some time, think about it. We'll be here. And we hope in the end that we can make you money. We can't guarantee it. We never guarantee anything, but we try very hard to make sure that our lines are accurate, are fast, we are up, and we have coverage on all the books that we say we do.
Yeah, I love the philosophy you're bringing to this, KB. And it's just so simple in the sense it's like, rather than talking the talk and being out there, to your point about talking about how great your product is, you're just focusing your energy on building the best product and delivering that value to your users in the hopes and, reasonable expectation that if it walks the walk, they'll do the marketing for you, right? And it sounds like that's what's happening here. So I just love that guiding principle that you're bringing to the product. Quick sidebar here, but I want to come back to something you said a second ago, which was arbing on your phone. And I don't know how much how many people in the audience have spent time trying to arbitrage. But what I want to ask you here from a product and user experience perspective, arbitraging notoriously, is, I don't say complicated, but it requires, quick switching between screens and interfaces and accounts. And you'll often see like images of people with like a sort of like a Minority Report type setup with like 6 desktop monitors and, looks like it's air traffic control, but they're actually arbing. The form factor of bringing arbitrage to your phone presents some UX challenges. So beyond the hardcore like infrastructure level challenges you've overcome to actually bring the data at the speed at which you do, talk a bit about the user experience side of it. What is it like arbitraging on a phone? Is it possible? What are some of the challenges? And just sort of what are you seeing, I guess, from your users with that use case?
Yeah, so, well, a couple of things. That 30% of our customers are actually from Canada. So surprisingly enough, Canada actually does hold its weight in sports betting pretty well. And that's not a small number of, 30% is a large number. So it's a good encouragement that we are doing pretty well in Canada. So hopefully one day, you could be able to jump on. But when it comes to the arbitraging on the phone, up until recently, I've been pretty much arbing to keep the company alive. We wanted to make sure we didn't have any outside capital or anything like that, because we don't want to have to answer to anybody, saying we have to hit certain numbers, or we have to start doing some sleazy tactics or anything like that. We're all self-funded. We have no investors like that. But arbing on your phone can be difficult. I think once you start to understand the layout of all sports books, where they kind of have the tabs at the top, and then they'll do like first quarter, second quarter, player props, and they start to lay it out. And we built our website sort of around that idea so that you felt comfortable with it. But that's kind of, once you get that understanding of each of your books, it becomes a lot easier. And then, of course, some of them have the one-click feature where, we embed the link into your phone so that when you click it, it automatically adds the bet to the slip. And then all you have to do is type in the money amount. So there's not a lot of sites that support that. But those that do make it a little easier. But I would say that I don't think I've ever placed a wager on my desktop, ever. That's how easy I think it can be. It's not something you just overnight work on, can do. But I think if you spent, 2 or 3 weeks, I think by the end, you could have both bets in by 8 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, it really is about developing a lot of the muscle memory to just know where to tap and without having to really think too hard about it, to your point here. And it can be developed quickly. But yeah, and it's just interesting for me solving for that problem with the mobile form factor and just like the rapid necessity to switch between screens and interfaces. So it sounds like you've cracked that nut, and kudos to you for that. I want to come back to the infrastructure and the underlying technology underneath all of this. And look, I forget what you said, 100 plus sports books you're supporting, like low latency. But really what I want to understand is, as you've built this, what are some of the challenges you've encountered building it and bringing it to life and getting down to that low level of latency that you do? And second part to the question is, you guys are shipping very frequently, a lot of new updates coming out routinely, new sports books being supported, new markets being supported. So you have a very high shipping cadence. How do you think about development, and how do you guys prioritize your development in terms of what you're focused on? So yeah, a bit of a two-part question there for you, starting with the challenges building all of this.
Yeah, so a lot of the, as we spoke about strats a little bit earlier, that took a lot of learning to make happen. We're talking about large files getting stored in a SQL, which usually likes less than 1 kilobyte rows in the database, and we're storing 5 megabyte rows. Like it's insane, the amount of data. So getting that low latency with these smaller sets, like this is all just text, real small text, makes it a little easier. However, when we're talking about speed, 1.6 seconds is really a hard thing to get. We're talking about reading the lines, then computing what the line actually means. So somebody might say LeBron James. Somebody might say L James. Somebody might say L period James. Some people will do L.E. James, and then some people will just misspell James. So there's a lot of different variations when it comes to trying to, once you read the line, to actually compute who is that really, and then is it an over, is it under, is it a point value, is it a team score first? You have a lot of different markets. I think we're up to something like 600 different variations of markets in sports betting, and that's only in the 7 or 8 sports that we have. So that's very difficult. Once you have all of that, now you actually have to store the data. And then get it to then the next part is actually getting it out to your users. And you have to be respectful for your users, because some people are on their phone and they don't have unlimited data plans. You start burning, 100 Mbits of data on a phone, somebody might get upset, So, the world has been changing a little bit better in that regard, but you still have to do through a lot of hoops to get to the end goal, which is the customer. And so we try very hard to do that as best we can. And sometimes it's out of our control. Sports books go down. They provide us feeds that are just lagging behind. They're providing incorrect liquidity or odds to us. And then we have to figure out how to take that down because we're in the market of finding incorrect lines. If we find an incorrect line, we can't just take it down and say, oh, it's wrong. So sometimes we have features on our site that allow you to like block a bet or remove something so that you don't have to see it anymore if you've found out that it's a bug on our system. And we do have bugs for sure. When we figure out our roadmap is kind of in my head. We don't really have it written down because we're constantly moving and shifting based on what's happening in the world. So the Olympics happened last year, kind of unforeseen sport, but we should cover it. And there's limited time on that. So there's a lot of things that happen are outside of our control. We had a new sports book because they're the newest ones, like Fliff, started up, or Sports Zeno, or all these sports books that people can finally have access to and don't limit as hard as other books. So those kind of pivot us into different directions. However, when it comes to feature sets, I really rely heavily on our Discord users. My community, I have to say, I've been through a couple Discords, and it's not to get everyone to come over, but I really feel like our Discord is probably one of the best out there. We keep toxicity to a minimum. People are willing to share their successes and failures. But on top of that, they tell me what's wrong, what they like, and what they don't like. And a lot of the UI that we talked about earlier, a lot of that comes from my people in my Discord. I can't say that I would be very good without them. And so there's a lot of people in our Discord that have been with me since week 2 or 3 that really help shape what Pick the Odds is. So our roadmap is constantly moving. If you're not moving, you're falling behind. And so we don't believe that there's any tool out there that will be able to compete with us in 2 years or so. We need a little bit of time to catch up. We work really fast. I ask a lot from my employees. It's not a pleasure to work for me. I promise you that. But I think in the end, everybody gets a little bit more out of their day when they see the success from our customers. We have a success channel. We ask people to post pictures when they had success. There's nothing better than working all day, adding a new sport, and then people are like, wow, I made $3,000 last night. I mean, not everyone makes $3,000, but there's a little bit more motivation than you building a trading tool for some Fortune 500 company that may never hit production and may never be used by anybody, and whether or not it has success or not. So I think there's a little bit of good feedback that comes in this type of environment that I really enjoy.
And you alluded a short time ago to the B2B opportunity. And look, again, from the outside looking in, KB, you've built this very impressive infrastructure. I would reasonably assume that the Pick the Odds product is somewhat abstracted from that infrastructure such that that infrastructure could be deployed to any use case or any client you so choose, which opens up the door, obviously, to B2B as an opportunity. You also alluded to the fact there's like sub 10 decent APIs out there for builders to use to actually integrate odds at the scale in which you offer them. So I guess all that to say, taken together, do you see B2B as a credible path forward for Pick the Odds? Are you thinking about that at all? Or are you just, for now, fully committed to the consumer product, nurturing that, growing that, and saving B2B for another day?
Yeah, I would say 95% of us is working on the customer. The B2B is the 5%. We don't advertise it. We never advertised it. We really don't advertise much of anything. But when people see us in our odds screen, if you ever have a minute, check out our odds screen on a live night. It's pretty insane how much data is getting fed to your computer, and that's just one bet market, so money lines or spreads. So a lot of other companies out there have went to that screen and said, "Wow, like we need that type of data." And so basically, that's how we kind of got those sales. We're not actively marketing it right now because it kind of counteracts what we're trying to do a little bit. Like we're trying to create a nice tool set with really fast odds. And, not to say that people are not trying to do the same thing we are, but we think that we can do better in regards to the B2C side. And so, if somebody comes to us and they say, we want to be a B2B, okay, we could talk it out. We're definitely not cheaper than anyone out there. So keep that in mind. But we're not looking just for anybody. We try to make sure that we pick the people that are not in the same field as us, I guess you would say.
Also want to come back to the fundraising side of it. You alluded to it here. You are fully bootstrapped, fully self-funded. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like you originally bootstrapped the company through arbitraging and basically dogfooding your own product to pay for the early days, which is super cool. But really what I want to, get from you here, KB, is just your broad perspective on the idea of growth capital. I believe you guys are profitable. Is growth capital something you would ever consider? And, if so, why? Or if not, why not? Just what's your overall, philosophy on this notion of growth capital and having external capital partners?
I feel like when companies start getting a little large, they start to lose a little focus. So we're trying to really keep everything at heart, real close to our chest, and keep our employee count low. And that's not to overwork everybody, but it's easier to communicate on a day to day in that regard. So we have 5 full-time employees right now, including myself, and that's what makes Pick the Odds operate. We host all our servers ourselves, so it keeps our costs low in regards to that. Our parent company has access to a data center that we built ourselves. It ended up being a $65 million project that finished out. So one of our investors owns a data center, which is a nice thing to have. We own our own IP addresses. It gives us a lot of edge. So with all those edges, it keeps it easy to not have to want to take in the capital. I can see there being an endpoint for Pick the Odds already, in the sense of like once all the tools are built. Obviously, the landscape will change, and sports books will get smarter. But we really wanted to find Pick the Odds as a one-place shop for finding everything that you need to make your wager as smart as possible. I can't tell you how frustrating it is. I have to open up Yahoo Sports to figure out who's on the court, and then how many minutes have that person played. And then if I want to see a play-by-play, I got to open like a FanDuel or DraftKings. It's quite frustrating having to jump through all these different apps. So Pick the Odds is really trying to be a homebrew of everything in one spot. And I just don't know if $5 million would really help me get there any quicker. We're already moving pretty fast in close to just about a year and 3 months. We have arbitrage, EV, low holds, and the most advanced filtering system, basically Excel on steroids and web UI is basically what we have for filtering. If you want to have, filtering by money lines to be sharp to circa, and for the NBA, and then you want totals to be sharp with sport trade or whatever, you can build all of that on Pick the Odds, and it'll all compute and send it to you within 2 to 3 seconds tops. And so you don't really have to build anything. So basically, got the couple $100 that I needed through arbitraging, made a couple thousand to sustain it, paid a couple salaries that way, and when we went live with subscriptions in, I think it was like May or maybe April of last year of 24, we're actually coming around the 1 year anniversary, profitable on day one, literally went profit right at, even with all salaries included. And then for 8 straight months, we didn't have a single day where we lost users. We grew every day for 8 months, which was just mind blowing. I mean, I expected during like the lull or maybe a bad weekend or all-star break or, something. But, the word of mouth just kept growing. The product just kept growing, and we still are. It's mind-boggling I just can't really comprehend. I was just sitting here week 5 of the NFL talking to a friend about arbitraging, that it would ever come to this. And I've had so much help from so many different people that made it possible, which is, I'm just so grateful for. So, yeah, I don't think we need any capital from anyone outside. It's not to say that it's not for everybody, but like for us, it's just build, keep uptime, and add new features, and people really seem to just enjoy that. I guess it wasn't included already in the field when we jumped in. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong way to build a business. Sounds like the path you set for yourself is, for now, the right way to build Pick the Odds, and then it's working well for you. So another topic before we get out of here today, I want to spend a couple minutes on, and you and I spoke about this the other day, and you sort of alluded to it a few minutes ago, talking about your Discord and the community you've built and the fact that there's no toxicity in there, and you're very proud of that fact. If anybody listening spends any amount of time on gambling Twitter these days, you'll see quite a different experience out there. And there's really, even in recent weeks, been a real proliferation of airtime and oxygen being given to the capper space, handicappers. And it stems to me from this fact that there's a whole population of people out there that are out there marketing themselves and their propensity to pick winners and trying to monetize through selling their picks. And that lends itself to obviously people being disingenuous and claims against that. And it just kind of devolves into this sort of cesspool of talk out there. Love to get your perspective as somebody who's taken, the higher road, if you will, and avoided all of that, really staying pure with the focus on your product, on delivering on the value proposition and the promise with the product. What are you seeing out there? What's your overall take on this? And is there anything from a product perspective you're thinking about that can go some distance to address some of the stuff we're seeing out there in terms of the scammier side of the capper industry?
Yeah, we've seen a couple of things start to take shape. I think we just saw a tweet by Spanky, who's going to create some type of, I guess, monitoring tool to try to make whether or not somebody is a profitable bettor and stuff like that. And I think we're kind of, on the same page with Spanky and us. I think there's a lot of people out there that get changed by money. And it's very important that you stay close to your morals, even if you're poor, middle class, or rich. You should still have your morals and stick by those. And I make sure that with Pick the Odds success, I try not to, make sure that I don't step away from that. I think what ends up happening, and without naming names, I had somebody who joined my Discord a month in, was a really nice guy, had no experience sports betting, and then decided maybe about 8 months in, was having success, made maybe about $250,000 with my product, and then just kind of turned, and then became very toxic, yelling at everybody. And it's not the person he was. And I know morally he was somebody different because he was a really nice guy. We had long conversations. And I think that just happens across the board. And it's the same thing with the affiliates. Oh, come use this product because you'll make a lot of money, even though you may not. And so we very are against that. And so it is a very toxic space, but it doesn't have to be. We're here all trying to beat the books. And I understand you're not releasing your edge if you have one. Like, you want to take advantage and hold it as long as possible. That's totally respectful. And I understand that. But I don't have to understand when somebody hits a long shot home run that we have to say, Photoshop. And so Pick the Odds does have a plan in place for that, considering that we have all the lines and we store them for every 1 second that they change. We can have a pretty good estimate of where the line was. And we are currently in beta with our bet tracker, and we're working towards a product that basically will validate it. And we want to have a way where you have to submit your pick before it settles with the odds you did. We can validate whether it's true or not. And then we will settle the bet internally and make sure that it is what it is. And we want to have the Pick the Odds be a badge of honor. If, we grade you and say that you're a 3%, that's a true 3%. You can't change your lines or add slips later, or I didn't get those odds, or you know what I mean? So we want to get there. We're not close, but we want to get there. And I think that'll help about these different cappers who are successful that are maybe getting hidden because they're not good at social media, but they're good sports bettors. I mean, that's what it is, right? Like, everybody's good at something. I'm a good data guy. I'm not good at sports betting. I'll never claim to be. And so let somebody be good at what they're good at, but don't let them get hidden from not being good at social media, for example.
Before we get out of here, I usually like to ask my guests, a bit of make-believe here. Pretend you got a crystal ball sitting in front of you. You're looking into it. 5 years into the future, in your wildest dreams, where is Pick the Odds at that time, and what does the world look like for Pick the Odds?
Yeah, I'd like to say at that point, I'd like to be saying that we're finished in the sense of everything that I set out to do, we did. It's not to say that we can't make it better or change UI or make it more fluid, or maybe have more books. Maybe we want to start getting into water polo, or there's a new type of football where you kick the ball or something. And new sports are starting up. Maybe there's a future in that, or maybe chess starts taking shape for gambling. Who knows? But it really kind of is tough to answer in the sense of what is the world going to be like in the sports betting market. We start to see poly markets start up here, where you can get basically a 1% edge up to $1 million pretty easy for the Super Bowl. There's no reason to pay a 3 or 4% juice. You can pay 1%. And so, those types of books can really open the door for arbitraging. If there was 4 or 5 poly markets and there's an arb of 1% and you could put $500,000 down instantly, it's a pretty good payday. It really depends on some of these legal battles that are currently out there. Also, whether or not these regulators are going to start easing up on the taxes. We see these sweepstake model books get started up, and then they're allowed to, basically allow anyone from 18 to 21 to gamble in the United States in 47 states and not have to pay pretty much anything. Where if you want to have a license in New York, you're paying, I think it's 51% tax and a $25 million upfront charge. It's just impossible for a regulated book to compete with that. So if the regulators can come down a little bit, make it a little more fair for everybody, we could start seeing more sports books show up, which would open the door, for companies like myself to find edges even better and really change the layout of sports betting. But we'll see how it does and how it plays out. But I'd like to see in 5 years, Pick the Odds be the household name for if you're going to place a wager, especially a large wager, and you want to get the best line quickly. You don't have to open up 17 apps and check them all and find it all. It just, you go to the thing, you pick the player prop, you pick the player, you pick the game, and then there's all 150 sports books right there for you. You can select the ones that you have, and instantly you can get the best line quickly. So the vision's there. We have a lot of cool features that I'm excited for that are coming out. a lot have been people have been asking for since like day one. I think our next 2 weeks will be very exciting for a lot of people, and I think we're really excited to get them out. So we've been working pretty hard on some of these features, and they've been taking quite a while, but usually when we release something, it's pretty good.
All right, some rapid fire questions to get us out of here today, KB. Looking for quick answers. First one is this: when you get up in the morning, what's the first app you check on your phone?
Oh, the first thing I check is always my customer service. I do customer service, and I believe that people should have max. So when I sleep from midnight, when things start to calm down, till 6, 7 a.m., till my son wakes me up, it's always about customer service, in my opinion. But outside of that, that probably is it. I'm really about that, and then making sure things are stable. We don't have some massive blow up or systems down.
Fair enough. All right, you're in the karaoke lounge. What song are you singing?
When we go to like Hometown Road is usually a really big popular one at all inclusives. You're sitting by the pool bar and you've been drinking all day, and somebody pulls out a phone, and usually Old Time Road comes on. Or if I'm with my close friends, maybe I'll try to rap and they can make fun of me. As long as they're laughing and doing a good job. I'm not saying it's any good, but you never know.
Awesome. Last one here for you on the rapid fire questions, KB. If you could be somebody else just for a day, who would that be and why?
I guess that changes pretty frequently. Right now, I'd like to maybe be like Zach Bond from the Eagles, a linebacker who just got signed to, $51 million. He basically didn't play at all at New Orleans. He was injured for a long time. Nobody wanted him. He got a small contract with the Eagles and suddenly became one of the best linebackers overnight in one season. What could be going through his mind right now must be like a life change, like thinking maybe you're going to retire at the age of 29 and suddenly you get signed to be, I think he's like the top 4 or 5 paid linebackers right now. That's just his mind must be going on all different avenues. Or even like Cooper DeJean, a pick 6 in the Super Bowl on your birthday. Like just things like that I think, people work so hard for things, and then when they get rewarded, I get so excited for them. So I think, just thinking about what is he thinking about right now would be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I shudder to think what I was doing on like my 22nd birthday or however old he turned on the Super Bowl there, and just pales in comparison, obviously, to that monumental moment for him. For folks listening that want to get in touch with you to discuss anything interesting they might have heard here, explore synergies, and or check out the product, can you quickly plug where they can do all that?
Yeah, so we're picktheodds.app. It's not .com, it's .app. And so once you're on our website, we have a contact at the thing. We could contact support at picktheodds.app. For email, we have a Twitter, picktheodd. We couldn't get the S. We have our Discord, which is available as a link on our website in the footer as well. And I'm always there. My DMs are always open on Twitter. They're always open on Discord. I answer everybody regardless of what the question is. Sometimes people don't like the answer, but the answer always gets done. I believe that, you shouldn't hide behind just because you're the CEO or the founder or anything. If I'm close with everybody and I speak with everybody, you'll see me talking all the time in our Discord. I believe that, speaking back with the community is basically understanding what your product's doing successfully and not. Let them tell you and direct you in the way of what is needed and what needs to be fixed urgently. And so staying close, I'm always available.
All right. Well, look, it's been great to have you here today and learn a bit more about what you're building. And to me, as interestingly, the philosophy in which you're bringing to how you're building it. It's been really intriguing, and clearly it's going well, and wishing you and the team all the best in the year ahead. And we'll continue to follow the story. Thanks for joining, KB.
Thank you so much for having us. Appreciate it.
Betting Startups podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. 4 out of the top 5 US operators personalize player experiences with Optimove. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/bettingstartups. And if you like what you see, you'll get your first month free.